Special good morning to our listeners. Special good morning also to our viewers. Welcome to The Point. It's Monday, the 19th day of January, 2026. Already 19th day of January, 2026. Yes. Good morning to our listeners and viewers via our social media platforms, Facebook page, YouTube channels. How everybody doing this morning? I had a conversation with somebody out in Canada this morning.
You did?
Snow, completely snow. I say, I have a remedy for you,
Spice out.
Come to Grenada. Come to Grenada. Sylvan, good morning, sir. How you doing?
Good morning to you, GT. I am doing good. I'm blessed. Highly favored, I'm sure.
Yep.
It's great to be here on every Monday morning to be able to share with our listening, viewing, and following audiences across the globe, basically. Yeah.
So was the weekend also? How was the weekend?
Oh, yeah, my weekend was really good. I don't know about yours, but I always tend to find a different rhythm for weekends because it's a time when things change a little bit.
Yeah. You slow down or you increase the pace?
You could do that. And I think around the weekend, you're technically in charge of
I spent the majority of the weekend in the Granatang area.
You did.
Had some little issues up there to take care of. So I was up there, work related.
And how was that? Because I understand they were doing the road repairs and all that up there, and some
much from where I was. I would be the 1910 area, so there was not much issues in terms of commuting on that area.
Right.
Not until later on in the evening I had to drop someone off in the Paraclete area.
Right.
Still a little messy with the road.
Right.
And in my take on it, I think that corner to go down before you get down to Birch Grove.
Hit me easy?
Hit me easy corner.
Yes, of course.
I was thinking if the individuals who are doing the project,
right,
what could I use to describe it in terms of the how careful you have to be as drivers coming up, coming down.
Yes.
I think there should have been a bit of a rush in having that sorted out.
Oh. And now you're speaking about prioritizing areas that you need to give some attention. Yes.
Now whoever's coming up has to go more to the left, and who's coming down has, you understand, and there's that small space between for who's coming up and who's coming down.
Yes.
So whoever's coming down, has to stop. Depending on the size of your vehicle, what happens there again. Someone may have to go back because they're working right on there and just leave it. I just left it like that.
Yes.
With some mark-off tape and whatever.
Right.
I understand the work has to take place, but sometimes I think a little urgency could be put into it, knowing that how this particular area has been used.
Right.
You understand where I'm coming from?
Right. Because I actually traverse that area. Somehow, I think because that's this central artery that bisects the island. Most people kind of go through Granite Town almost every time I St. David. So I traversed that area. And you're speaking about that corner as you come down there before you get to Hitmizi, and you're overlooking the spring garden that's down the drop.
Yes.
And it's narrowed.
It's right on there.
Yes. Yeah, very, very narrow. And what I think, GT, though, is not enough thought goes into the planning processes.
I agree.
I know one of our callers would say there's little or no planning at all. We do. But I think the forethought in foreseeing what can happen and how we can minimize the inconvenience. We understand the importance of the project, but I think if people spend some time and think, how should we, as you mentioned, prioritize that area, minimize some things, move it a little bit quicker, so you limit the frustration that people can have on the road.
If we're going to start it today, could we put a little extra time into it so we could probably get to a point where it's completed and covered so the traffic could get back to a level of normalcy?
And at least do some, maybe even temporary covering on that area.
So
you have
just
access.
Left like that.
Yes, I agree.
And then the muddy area and stuff, knowing the conditions when it gets wet. It's a dangerous area too.
It is.
It's a dangerous area.
Very dangerous. Yeah.
You understand? And not everybody may be the best of drivers. A lot
of people don't like going through that area for that purpose.
And for some reason, I came across some folks who may be tourists yesterday.
Yes.
And they became very scared, knowing they have to pull more to that side of the way you're looking over. They have to pull more there.
Right.
So know that they get into a level of panic and wondering if they should go back or come forward.
A lot of people can't reverse. You know that, right?
So I'm just saying, I understand the project has to take place. We're happy that it's going to improve the water situation and everything. But I think certain areas you need to give it a little priority.
Yes.
To have that problem.
Yes, of course. And I think you're right on point with that, and hence the reason why we focused a great on for this week about the defensive driving aspect of things. And that is aspect of it, because it helps you to be aware of your environment, to understand these things that are taking place, and to understand even if you're not driving, but how can you be able to create a better defensive and driving environment.
All right. I mean, I understand the conditions that folks have to use the various roads for, but I just think that whoever is doing these projects, you need to put some serious planning in terms of how you move, how the whole project going to be going. I just think sometimes we know what we have to do, so we come to do it.
Yes. I
mean, I may be so a little harsh in saying it, but we know we come to move this particular thing, we come to do it, and who cares what?
No, you're on point with that, because if you look at the temporary resurfacing of some of the areas, I'm sure that they will do a total resurfacing of the roads after the project is completed.
We'll be happy for that.
But if you look at not just the areas that they're patching back, but even some of the patches, I listened to one of your followers, callers, and he mentioned how you create the foundation for ensuring that the asphalt or whatever aggregate you use, it holds for a considerable length of time. And setting the foundation on a base is critical. And not even just setting the foundation on the base, but even preparing the framework, the setting. So if you're going to patch a hole and you're going to just use a bass broom, and sweep out the dust from inside of it and put the stuff inside, you bet that there will be seepage around the edges. At the bottom would be unstable, and therefore moisture will seep in, and with pressure and everything else, that thing is going to break through in the track shop time.
I actually pay attention to that being done. Was it a Sunday before? There was a little gang doing the road, and they would just sweep it off and drop some things on the inside. So there's not much supervisory input, anyone supervising the process.
Right.
You as being a part of the theme that they put there to work.
Right.
And you just want to patch the hole, so you just sweep it out. You understand? Yeah. And just put whatever you put in the coal mixer, we will call it, and that's it.
Yeah, because even that, some of the areas that you look at that they're sweeping off the patch as well. There are these machines that you can use to cut, and you can cut it in a particular shape. Yeah. So in other words, you're not just using the pothole that is created, you're expanding on it. You're cutting out the weaker edges a distance beyond, so you get to the solid aspect of it. And you're going to dig a bit from the loose surface to a solid base, so that you can guarantee you have some depth, you have some solid foundation on which you can sit, and you have an expanse for which that new aggregate is going to hold on to the existing one, because the other areas, the edges are already compromised.
Yeah.
So if you just take stuff and you add it to it, you're creating, as I mentioned, that space, that pocket for seepage of other things that would compromise further the aspect of those resurfacing. So you're absolutely right.
But sometimes
a lot more thoughts need to go into it.
Sometimes these individuals who are doing it, you see their minimal equipment also to work with.
Okay.
Minimal equipment. I would say in this day and age, if you are given a job ability, you have to have proper equipment.
Remember, we don't have travel anymore, right?
We don't.
And a lot of guys are doing contracts.
I'm still seeing it done in like how it was done 50 years ago. So
well, I think I don't know. I think the 50 years ago could have been better, because the mere fact that you were a travel or road gang, public works, you may have had some direct supervision technically, but the mere fact that you've gone into, in my opinion, a disadvantaged contract setting where monitoring and evaluating is not very effective, you would find that you suffer the disadvantage of people trying to do things quickly and to make as much as they could in a shorter space of time, and so it water down, dilute the quality of the substance that you're supposed to get and the material.
Give people what kind of vibes I'm feeling. It just gives someone a work, and that's how I'm seeing it. To be as blunt with it as possible.
We
just give somebody a work. Give them, hey guys, just pull a couple of guys and get them a work.
And I maintain, especially when it's public resource, when we have to, as people say, pay our taxes, and we have no G-tax, Grenada tax. I heard it a couple of days ago.
Yes.
Taxation is what sometimes run these smaller economies, because we don't have a lot of industries, etc. So when you want your tax dollar to be spent wisely, and that is why the state mechanism has to have a monitoring and evaluating regime that ensures that One, taxes are collected, definitely. There's a mechanism for that. And I'm seeing they're doing that a bit more now, more effective. And then the monies that are being used or utilized, allocated for certain things, that you want to ensure that it is spent to the best value of the dollar. And sometimes we don't see that. And sometimes the people who are supposed to be responsible for not spending or utilizing wisely, we're not hearing them being punished. I mentioned that more than one time on my program. I agree. We need to be able to hold people responsible for substandard functioning and substandard quality of products that the state is expected to benefit from.
And that's get to the level where we will never find out who is the individual.
You think so? We could.
We could, but sometimes we just never go to that depth.
I don't think we are investigative enough.
We go into the depth and say, well, Mr. McIntyre is responsible for taking care of that project. So if that project was not completed properly, Mr. McIntyre bear the consequences.
And sometimes, as you say, and even with the police, they get criticized for not speaking about certain things, or people that they penalize for certain things. The public hold them responsible and saying, when you hold people for these things, make them a public example. Let us know. Tell us that these are the people that because as we do on our programs, we might be speaking of things that are actually happening. People are actually held responsible for certain things. But if the public, they aren't aware of what's happening and the penal systems in place, and those who found themselves on the opposite side of it, then things will continue to happen. So it acts as a two-prong. One as a deterrent, and it gives you better value for your tax dollar.
And you're right about that. It acts as a deterrent, because if I know Mr. McIntyre's been publicized for whatever he did, I'll put in your name in front a whole lot this morning.
Yeah, that's what I don't mind it.
And he's been publicized for whatever he did, and I see the consequences that you have to bear, sir.
Yes.
I will now think twice in terms of wanting to do that also.
Yes.
Because I feel, well, and if a level of shame and your whole personal part of your life has been deteriorated because of that, I may not want to get to that level too.
Yes.
And if that happens, sometimes it gets to a stage where the name and shame may not want to happen in Grenada, and I think that's why things are getting done in the manner in which it's getting.
So I put it in two factors. One, you create the environment for accountability, transparency, and reporting, monitoring, evaluating system. And the second component of it is the enforcement. And when you have that structure in place, you get two things. One, you get a deterrent factor, and two, you are holding people responsible for what they are supposed to do.
And you will get better results coming.
I was about to say that, you just pulled it off me. And greater quality.
You get better results from that. So, Mac, we due for a break. Let's take that break. When we come back, we get into a meet of our
Mr. McPhail is going to join us.
Mr. McPhail is going to join us this morning. Nice to have you with us also. Stay with us, folks. Don't touch it out. We'll be right back.
Great.
Oil Fest 2026. GBN Oil Fest. I took part last year and I'm the champion, and I'm looking forward for persons to compete with me. All come up, pause airstrip, come up, let's cook the national dish. I know you Grenadians can real cook, and all you know about oil is all about breadfruit to coconut and taste and colors. So all you come, let's compete.
GBN's Oil Long Fest is proudly sponsored by Glen Spring Water, Grenville Credit Union, the Marketing and National Importing Board, Echo Blue Limited, Rush Distributors, Grenada Cooperative Bank, Grenada Paper Products, Hubbard's, Superb Distributors, and Grenada Motor Club.
Got something to share?
Call us at 440-1252.
WhatsApp 405-3052 or 407-8458.
Or email gbnnews@gbn.gd.
GBN News, first, accurate, voted #1.
I want you to control your anger. There's a way to feel better. That's one thing to remember. No matter where you are, you can be a star. Stop and take a deep breath and relax yourself. Take another deep breath and relax it, and relax it. Eliminate violence.
Welcome back to our listeners. Welcome back, viewers, once again to the Point Classic Radio, GBN TV. Let's welcome Mr. McPhail. Mr. McPhail, welcome back.
Morning, GT. Morning. I got here a bit late because of traffic issues.
The usual deterrents. Yeah, the usual. All right.
So we got a reasonable way, not to of excusing people at workplaces to deal with traffic, right?
Well,
they should leave a bit earlier.
Yeah.
But it seems to be the excuse of most workers. Boss, I get to happen in traffic.
In traffic, yeah.
Why you late traffic?
So but the police have been advising us as to what better routes to take on mornings now with the drones,
and
all of that. So people shouldn't be late for work. And we established now, GT, and I followed the program when I was out.
Yeah.
That you guys were saying to people, you need to leave a bit earlier.
Yes.
And use alternative
route. That complements
but
it,
particular routes, the earlier you leave still doesn't solve your problem 100%. Because if everybody decides to leave earlier,
everybody would not decide to leave earlier.
You'll end up in the same problem.
Everybody would not decide to leave earlier. Mr. GT encouraged the public to leave home earlier. Everybody would not.
So if everybody listens and they said, you should leave home around 7:30 if you want to get to work exactly for 8 o'clock. Or let's say leave home about at least. Let's say it's 6:45. Okay, for give yourself time. Mm-hmm. And if everybody decides to leave at 6:45, what happens?
No, so I think you have to be, and I'm going to use the word scientific a bit more. You have to be a bit more scientific and analytical in your whole dealings, even as a driver. Because I know leaving my home to cross a particular place on morning. A couple of months ago, I had to be out there by 7:25, 7:30.
Yeah.
If I get there, I can clear easy. And then I realized, no, that has changed.
Yes.
So I decided, no, I have to be there by 7:15. So people don't have to analyze, but no, as the volume of traffic and vehicles increase on the island, you realize you have to adjust yourself.
Yeah, adjust.
So one time you used to be leaving home at 7, you said, no, I have to leave home now at 6:30.
But then if everybody's thinking in the same particular way, so devil advocate when there's a small, but suppose everybody decided even at 6:30. Would we have that same congestion?
No, you would not. You would not. You definitely would not. As a matter of fact, it's going to space it a bit more in terms of some people, because I was going through one of the airports recently, and I had just a few minutes for check-in. We were in this long queue, and there were some other people who were in the queue as well, but their flight was 2 hours later than mine, but they were ahead of me. But they decided to let them get there so that they could get enough time to clear. I had my time, but because of the length of the queue, my time was running lower.
Yeah.
But the point is, you understand that you can get delayed, so you're getting early up enough so that you can stay ahead of the game. So it eases up the pressure. So when I said to them, I said, "What time is your flight?" And I purposely said, "My flight is at 8 something." I said, "Mine is 5 something."
But if you understand, Mr. McIntyre, he created a queue. So if everybody comes there early.
Yeah. But do you understand?
I understand, but it still created a queue. So if you leave earlier, if you go back to the same traffic, everybody leaves early, you will create a queue because there'll be lots of traffic on vehicles on the road.
Yeah, GTO do well. if you can't win the match, you're drawing it, you know.
It still will create a queue. So,
but that's good, but that's okay.
It still will create a
conversation is good.
All right, man. Right. So we want to get into a constructive conversation this morning, and of course, thanks to Mr. McPhail for joining us this morning once again. We want to talk about defensive driving this morning.
Yes.
We want to put a lot of emphasis on it. We know one of the main reasons we see lots of accidents occurring.
Okay.
It's one of the reasons that there are various, but if one of the reasons is folks are not being defensive a driver enough.
Yes.
For various reasons, folks just they drive without due care and attention, and not looking out for the road users themselves. And it's just.
Did you stick a pin there? That phrase you just used.
Yeah.
Due care and attention.
Right.
Now there's an accident. Both parties are normally charged by the police for driving without due care and attention. Why is that?
Well,
before
you say both persons are charged, there is a difference in a charge that is called a notice of intended prosecution.
Okay, right.
So that is a blanket way of ensuring that you cover the very likely opportunity of an offense.
Okay.
So you give the person a notice of intended prosecution, meaning that both persons can be charged with driving without due care and attention.
Okay.
It is not the police to bring anybody guilty.
Yes.
The persons must go before the court, and the court must decide on the evidence provided
from the police.
From the police.
Okay.
So and other persons then. So and witnesses. So the police now would give you. And probably you say, well, the man bunks me from behind.
Exactly.
So he should be naturally wrong. That's not the police decision to make, because there might be other conditions that may have created that. So the police will serve you a notice first.
Yes.
It's not a charge.
Okay.
And if in the investigation there are findings or sufficient grounds to charge you as well for driving without due care and attention, then you would be preferred with a charge and you would get a summons to attend court.
But why is someone always considered wrong when you are hit from the back, when you hit them from the back?
It's not a blanket thing. It is two ways about it. One, insurance coverage has a particular way of covering persons of being negligent or otherwise.
Yeah.
And the other factor is that the law provides for a particular safe driving distance.
Yes.
And if people maintain it, it means therefore if you're observant, you're alert, you're driving with due care and attention, you should not be hitting somebody
from behind.
And so the premise of if you hit from behind, you're wrong, is a notion that says to you, how did you get there? If something is ahead of you, except, and that is why it cannot be a blanket thing, because somebody could be ahead of you and you may have lost your brakes or something like that, lost control by some means. Despite you may have hit the person from behind, your vehicle could have been at fault, and then the person in front could have done something that caused you, even if you're driving at the distance, to have hit
a sudden stop
or otherwise. And even sudden stop, if you keep your distance technically.
Yeah. So that's where the due care and attention still comes.
That's where the due care and attention still comes.
If you're paying attention, you will see someone is stopping, or they may have slowed down for some reason. Right. So you probably start keeping your distance in between if it's possible.
And that is against the premise when we decided to create the awareness of defensive driving. It speaks of the alertness, the awareness of your environment, the hazards that you're likely to meet, and the distractions that can happen.
So how do you further define defensive driving?
You want to help us?
You go ahead.
Okay, good. So defensive driving encompasses all the aspects of environmental, circumstantial, and general awareness of hazards and conditions that can minimize the severity of accidents and the frequency of accidents. In other words, a driver or drivers need to inculcate or to become aware and conscious of the conditions and things that are likely or could create an accident. And so you would put conditions, what we call mitigating actions, to prevent or to minimize accidents. And that whole aspect of defensive driving takes in quite a number of conditions. There are a few steps and pointers that we could speak about, touch them there in exhaustive. I'm almost sure that we can talk about.
What is the most critical of those elements that in defensive driving? What's the most critical one?
I wonder if we should go to most critical first, or maybe we should ask why. Should we that why defensive driving?
Why defensive?
Well, let's go to why defensive driving.
And then I don't know.
Well, let's go to the why defensive driving. Why is it important that you should be a defensive driver?
And maybe why we chose the topic to discuss now.
Okay,
Richard.
Okay.
Right. So We analyzed what's happening, and that is also based on the police's findings.
Yeah.
That there are a couple of conditions, and they grade them in terms of 1, 2, 3, and the factors that are responsible. I remember when we started our Safer Foundation, one of the things that we wanted to have done, which we are continue to do, is to analyze statistics and the causes and conditions that create accidents. And I think number 2 on down, apart from speeding, number 2 on happened to be the inability for persons to be aware of conditions that are likely to create accidents. And that is one of the premise against which we decided, you hear what? A lot of the accidents that occur, if you listen to the statistics that are given on mornings especially, you'd realize that the majority are minor accidents.
Yes.
And the majority are preventable accidents. And a lot of them happen to be driver error. Okay. Even in some of the critical or fatal accidents, they happen to be driver error. And there could be a number of factors responsible for that. We mentioned some of them on our program before, and we did say that even the driving license regime and the conditions for obtaining a license and categorizing the type of license and the time that people should have them and the time they should be used is something that could be reconsidered, and that has something to do with defensive driving as well.
Okay.
So that's the premise against why defensive driving. The reason, one of the reasons being, your vehicle is part of your asset, your resource.
Yes.
And a lot of people take a good sense of pride in their vehicles. You want to clean your vehicle, you want to take care of it because you're going to take care of you. You want to put something on the rims, the tires, you want to have the interior really nice. And the younger fellas now want to have a particular bling with it, to the annoyance sometimes and distraction of some people against the law, the big barrels and so forth. Yeah. So a vehicle technically is a valued asset. But beyond that solid aspect of asset, there is a human element. A human life is invaluable. You cannot pay sufficient for somebody's life. And so defensive driving and the awareness of how to be safe on the road would, one, help you to maintain your asset, to be able to keep it on somebody else's, and 2, it will prevent injuries and fatalities on our roads if we become a bit more conscious. And hence the reason we believe that we should focus quite a bit more on defensive driving.
You spoke about, just to chime in on you, but you spoke about it being one of your main assets as an individual. It costs you to get a vehicle. I don't think except someone gives you one free, but it costs you. So then why would you drive in a particular manner to destroy it?
Yeah, I don't think intentionally some people drive to destroy, you know.
I think it's in some people it's intent. They drive it to destroy, but you're driving in a manner that will cause destruction of your vehicle at the times. Yeah. You understand? It may not be intentional. I don't think you want to match it, but you as a person who is positively thinking, you know, if I'm going to drive at 100 miles per hour in a road conditions like we have in Grenada.
Yes.
You know what the circumstances could develop to.
Right.
You understand? So I'm just saying, if you know it's one of your main assets, your pillar asset that you have, for most people it's one of the most expensive things they have.
Right.
You understand? For most people. Besides having a home, but it's one of the other most expensive thing you may have is a vehicle.
Right.
And why would you want to have it driven in that particular manner to have it destroyed?
You remember one time when we started the Safer Foundation, we spoke about analyzing situations, conditions, and the statistics would prorate to identify age group, and the type of accident, the time of day, and the age group, and the types of accidents that occur at a particular time. And the statistics I mentioned earlier was trending at a particular age group persons, and it happened to be the younger persons.
Yeah.
That is telling. Now, when you are able to analytically strategize your system in that kind of a way, looking at causes and effect and solutions, it will tell you definitely where you should be heading. And so now that we have identified some of the causes, and again we've been working closely with the police, getting some data and so forth, and it is our intention always also to get deeper into creating that database of the statistics so that you can direct interventions more at a particular age persons. And as I said in our program last week, that one of our strategies for 2026 is to getting into the institution to help people to start culturing that habit of safety and awareness of the driving conditions around us, how you can become a defensive driver and how you can maintain that valuable asset that you spend so much for, rather than driving in a particular way and ending up in a particular condition.
All right, let's get into the defensive driving a wee bit, and I throw these questions out, and of course leave it up to you, of course, Mr. McIntyre and of course Mr. McField to answer. There's always that distance and speed that is needed when you're driving.
Yes.
How important is it to maintain those distance and space when you're driving, still in reference of being a defensive driver?
Okay, great. So for the driving exams, there is one of those that a lot of people try to avoid: the thinking distance, braking distance, and overall stopping distance. There's a formula for that, and there's good reason why that formula is useful. If you drive at a particular speed, your thinking would be in a particular way. Your reaction time will also be in a particular way. And this is why they'll give you, if you're driving at 60 miles per hour, your thinking distance would be X.
Yes.
Your braking distance would be X, and your overall stopping distance would be X as well. And there's a formula for working that out, so that I don't think after the exam for driving, a lot of people go back to some of these things to be conscious of what they should be doing on the road. Because if you're driving a particular vehicle just as well, and that is something that someone has to know. And I think somebody mentioned in our program, if you're driving a particular size truck, it has, and I remember Citizen Roller spoke about that braking system that they mentioned that the guys are overusing.
Yeah, somebody did call
and they're engaging inappropriately and all of that. Those things are included in the mechanics of the vehicle to generate particular results. If you're carrying the tonnage of a truck or otherwise is X, you overload it with beyond the tonnage that it's supposed to carry. It therefore means that it will decrease your ability to stop going down a hill in a particular way or driving at a particular speed. If you're driving a water tank truck, those that carry fuel or tank and so forth, the fuel capacity is designed as well to give you that level of control on road.
Yes.
So if you drive with the capacity below a certain level, your stopping distance and your braking distance would also differ. If you travel at its maximum capacity as well, that also will give you an overall stopping and control distance as well. If you exceed that, it has implication as well. Yeah. The guys who drive the fire truck and otherwise, they would tell you, if you drive the fire truck at a particular speed with the amount of water and so forth, you carry the risk of the truck, and not just the fire truck, any truck that carries liquid, not just load, but you have liquid or fluid load. It takes off the balance of the equilibrium of the vehicle as it's on the road.
Okay.
Because if you sway and it's at a particular capacity, the fluid itself shifts.
Yes.
And so it creates an imbalance with the vehicle on the road surface. And so if you are traveling with fuel at a particular capacity, you have to be able to drive at a particular speed when you approach a bend. And there's also a difference in a bend and a corner. You know that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of people sometimes, they're going around a corner. It's actually a bend. And so it tells you that when you are approaching a corner, and this is what defensive driving also would emphasize. We have a whole course that we want to really expose people to later on so you can understand those mechanics. So some people, you would drive, and they would allow themselves with that weight that we're speaking about. As you get to the corner and you get there and you would press the brake, or some people don't even press the brakes, they stamp on the brakes. So in defensive driving, it also tells you that your braking process has to be gradual. So you're pressing the brake rather than stamping on the brake, so you get to the point. There's also a point where your brake should not be held down consistently. There's called the hydraulic and the air brakes and all of these stuff. You have to release and then re-engage, and then you will get maximum traction. So all of these little mechanics and so on within defensive driving, they are critical. And I believe that an expansion of our driving and licensing regime should be an aspect of exposing the younger drivers, especially because some of the things that I'm speaking about here, apart from my means of getting academic knowledge of those processes, experience also is telling. So outside of getting through a stream of learning, you have to depend on experience now. And the younger people, unfortunately, they can't move fast enough to get the experience.
I understand. There's something called the SPIDI. I hope I'm that is the SIPDI. You understand where I'm coming from with that?
What is that? SPIDI?
It's called you scan, you identify, you predict, you decide, and you execute.
That's correct. Okay, good. Yes, good.
So, do you think of in the reference of defensive drivers, how did that process get implemented in defensive driving?
You can jump in anytime. You want to say something?
Go ahead.
Right. Okay.
Jump in. But go ahead.
No. I want you to make a little intervention. I know what I'm going to say on this, but I don't want to take all of the talking on the program. You know that, Richard?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, good. But it really involves. It takes in exactly what we're trying to say, that when you're getting behind a wheel, it is more than checking the brake fluid, the oil, the transmission fluid, etc., and all of this, and your steering capacity and the interior of the vehicle. It goes beyond that. It extends itself into the mental preparedness for the road. So in other words, if you are going to be going to gravel and concrete to take gravels or to collect some of the aggregates, you're using a 2.5 tonnage truck, X, Y, and Z, or maybe a 7 or 5 ton truck, whatever capacity. There are a couple of things that you need to factor in. Your maintenance check must first take place before you leave. Your braking system must be in. The route you are intending to travel, you have to process that now in your mind.
So that's where the scanning part comes in.
The scanning comes. So you're thinking ahead now of what you are likely to engage.
Yes.
The time of day that you are traveling, that comes in as a factor. And as
you would also want to factor in the route because you know there are two different routes to get to gravel and concrete.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you'd want to factor that in as well.
Absolutely. So that's why I mentioned the science. It takes in a lot of thinking and planning, scanning before you could deliver on what you are intending to do. In addition to that, you understand in a time now that quite a bit of road work are undertaken across country. You are expected to have some levels of delays and all that kind of thing. You must factor that in place to deal with it. But apart from factoring the road works that are taking place, you have to think about the hazards that you're likely to come across as you travel. The people on the roadsides, they are doing the debushing program.
Right.
And they're not removing the debushing stuff immediately.
Yeah.
So you realize on Tabor Hill now they're cutting and they're going way up into and they're bringing the stuff down closer to the road. They're not moving it immediately later on. So you have to factor in, you know what, these people walking on the road, They're going to push this thing into the road. You'll take up 4 feet into the active driveway, so I have to be conscious of that. And you also going to understand that if I'm traveling over the hill and I'm going through Baltazar and so on, the people are taking out stones from the river and they're putting it on that bridge right there, and they're cutting in on part of the road space.
Yeah.
And
That's where the obstruction part comes in. So you have to identify all of that.
Identify all of that. And you know, thank you, one of those callers, one of our followers in the program, drew this to my attention.
Yeah.
Sent me a picture of these stones that people are taking from the river to do septic suckaway
The sewer
systems.
system, for the sewer system and so forth, yeah.
But the danger of putting that on an already narrow bridge with no railings, etc., the hazard involved in that. Imagine one of those bigger trucks coming through and a smaller vehicle. And these trucks coming and they belch one of the horns, and somebody just panic a little bit and just skid off one of those stones. You know what happened?
So that's where the prediction part comes in. Like, you predict, am I able to, before another vehicle comes to me, or should I be able to? That's where the prediction part comes in.
And the prediction is wide. It is even beyond, well, the weather forecast.
Yeah.
What did Met Office say? What did Price and Wint and those guys and Trisha Miller and the other people say about the weather this morning? Are we factoring that?
Should I remember that particular route?
I remember last week when we were speaking, GT, we said that people now have to be able to follow information and be able to predict, well, you know what, certain things are likely to happen based on what we've seen or trend, that is likely to. So you predict that this thing is like, and a lot of times when you follow models that are given scientifically, they're not just generated, and predictions and forecasts don't just come. There are factors, return periods, and other analytical stuff that are brought in, where they put together, that will tell you, if we put these together, this is likely to be the outcome. I will predict that is like it, that will happen on a 60 or 80% that is like. So the prediction aspect, that is also critical. So getting into a vehicle, getting on the road, it's a lot beyond just dressing nicely and sitting behind the wheel.
I mean, your shiny rims and so forth.
And shine the rim with what to do. I'm not on the jet.
So if we do for a break, when we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay with us, folks, to the Point Classic Radio GBN TV. We'll be right back. Don't touch it.
Hey everyone, it's Miss Rose from the Rose Garden, and I just want to let you guys know of the GBN All Down Fest happening on the 31st of January at Pearls in St. Andrews. I was there last year and it was a great experience. There was different kinds of all down. There was wild meat, there was chicken, there was salted meat, and all other kind of all down, and the cooks was very good. So there's also wine tasting and other things happening at the event. So come out and support the GBN All Down Fest on January 31st at Pearls in St. Andrews. It starts at 10 a.m. in the morning and goes on until, and I could let you guys know it's a wonderful, wonderful experience.
GBN's Oil Long Fest is proudly sponsored by Glen Spring Water, Grenville Credit Union, the Marketing and National Importing Board, Echo Blue Limited, Rush Distributors, Grenada Cooperative Bank, Grenada Paper Products, Hubbard's, Superb Distributors, and Grenada Motor Club.
If you thought 2025 was amazing, get ready, Grenada. GBN's Old Young Fest is back and bigger than ever. Join us on Saturday, the 31st of January at Pearls Airstrip for a full day of food, culture, and fun. Watch competitors battle it out for the title of the best original oil down, the best seafood oil down, and the most festive display. Enjoy live calypso and a steel pan, children's activities, traditional ring games, and plenty vibes for the whole family. Gates open at 10 a.m. Don't miss the celebrations of Grenada's national dish, GBN Old Young Fest, where culture, flavor, and tradition comes together. See you on Saturday, January 31st at Pearls Airstrip. And remember,
welcome back. Welcome back once again to our listeners or viewers. Of course, it's to the point here on Classic Radio GBN TV, or feature conversation this morning. We're talking defensive driving. And of course, Mr. McPhail and of course some others this morning. And it's important that, the subject matter comes up from time to time, because I think for some reason, folks may have lots of trail of thought about it. Yeah. Especially the younger drivers today. I don't know if you want to chime in on that in any way at all.
GT, I remember years ago, there was a defensive driving course run by the police. If my
but was it open to the public, or was it for folks within the force or government entities?
It was open to an extent, and if my memory serves me correct, Sylvan was an instructor in that process. A lot of drivers of government vehicles were expected or instructed, I should say, to attend that course. Somehow it seems to have just fallen by the wayside.
Why has that happened? Mr. McIntyre, you probably could chime in on it. Why has that happened?
There are a couple of things, with changes in sometimes different levels of administrations and our planning processes for succession otherwise sometimes leaves a lot to be desired as to how we transfer capacity and how we build on good precedents of the past. And that sometimes has inhibited our ability to continue with some things that started. And again, there are other factors that erode with the pace at which some things roll out, some things get swept or left. But I don't think all is lost where that is concerned. I think there are some entities that still do defensive driving.
We see a lot of, driving instructors on the nation's road today.
Yeah.
Is that part of the defensive driving? Is that part of that course where they offer you that you pay for? Is that part of that course? Hey, there's a particular day or two that we will show you defensive driving.
No, I don't think so, GT, because some of these young instructors, they don't even know what is defensive driving. So how can you impart knowledge
I would still stand for them and say I wouldn't say they don't know.
He said some of them. He didn't say all.
But I would say they don't know. I think it's just not practiced or not just thought anymore. The defensive driving.
But why would you want to waste time teaching people to drive defensively when you could spend less time on making the money?
So it become a monetary thing now, because I want 20 people for the day in terms of teaching.
And
drive,
you pay by the hour?
A 30-minute segment or hour segment. If I could do 15 hours, 20 hours for the day, just teaching folks to drive and roll through the basic as quick as possible.
Yes.
And say that, hey, you're good, man.
So I am offering a business opportunity for persons who want to emphasize on quality driving and standard driving.
Yeah.
To emphasize on a driving school, not just a driving instructor, and a few people you teach them to pass the exams and then you let them out on the road. I know there are places that teach people to drive and they name driving school. I don't know the depth.
Their schools are just basically instructors in Grenada.
I know there are some places they say driving school.
Driving school,
right?
But it's just one individual.
But it is one of the areas we can explore, and I think through our foundation, Road Safety Foundation, one of our aims would be to get defensive driving as an alternative, as a corrective, in a way, I don't want to say penal measure, but people who find themselves wanting or having a number of offenses, particular type of offenses, driving related offenses, should be sent to do a defensive driving course. And as I was mentioning, there are a few entities, companies. I know Glen in particular, I can call them off straight off. I know that they emphasize defensive driving with the drivers. I don't know what the standard are in terms of maintenance and accidents of the vehicles, but I think that the entities, I remember FCL one time, was it FCL Financial Complex?
Yes.
People, they had called me up on wanting to have their drivers do defensive driving, and I think they understand it's an investment in your assets or your resources. If you teach your drivers to be responsible, to drive defensively, it will protect you in the long run. It will protect other people on ground, and it would also help them to be able to be better drivers, and they would obviously take care of your vehicles on street. But I do think that the aspect of defensive driving should be more emphasized in our society, and it should become mandatory technically, And as I said, we also want to take that kind of information through our institutions of learning.
Yeah.
And the TAMCC college and university level people, there are some target grounds that we want to hit.
Yeah.
But because people are advancing more quickly these days, the younger people, they're born with a gadget in their hand.
Yeah.
I think we can make defensive driving and safe driving a fun thing. Not that you would get your little child to come and start driving in your house with all the things, but you'd want to be able to show them, even with the toys in the house, that if you play with the toys, this two vehicles coming this way, you can start culturing your children.
Yeah, I mean,
into safer driving.
Like simulation, of course. Like
of course.
Look at via the computer and so forth. You look at
by the computer simulations.
Because it's one of the ways that gets the attention a whole lot, especially
Absolutely.
the young people these days. You know, you put up a simulation exercise and show this is how you be defensive. But I think so. It could be a plus for the driving instructors also. You know, where they could be offering these extra classes. You get the license. You'd always say after you get the license, that's when the driving begins.
Yes.
But GT, as I said, some of them cannot pass on knowledge that they don't have.
So do we give them the opportunity to get the knowledge?
So I think that's where we have to target first. The instructors.
And you're making good sense there, Richard. That
we target them, and then
defensive driving, close for driving instructors.
Yeah.
When you know, people somewhere feel with the level of experience they have in terms of teaching people to drive, they don't need it.
So we have to make it mandatory for some things and some places.
You know?
So that's why I said
part of the if you need to get a license per se. Do an individual need a license to be a driving instructor?
It is one of the things I know the police. I have had conversation with them that they were looking into. They were having they were putting a structure in place where there would be a standard or requirement for people to teach people.
Okay.
And I think that is long overdue, where you need to be able to set those benchmarks.
You know, sometimes you see someone have a car or two and they decide to teach people to drive.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
A regular school, you can't just open a school without certain
That's correct.
procedure.
Because if you're a bad man, you're going to make bad people
and make bad decisions.
And make bad decisions. So technically, so if you get somebody and it doesn't mean that a bad man cannot get a license.
No.
He just has to be able to pass the exam and he could get a license.
Yeah.
But that him will pass that on to somebody else.
Exactly.
So if we set criteria and we set conditions for doing that, I think we can increase our safety. And maybe on our program, I'm thinking as well that throughout and for the Road Safety Week day this year, one of the things we will be initiating is having a slogan or have some punchlines. And on our Monday program, we could pull out a defensive driving tip that we could want to leave with people every time we come on the program. And through the programs, we want to highlight some of those tips.
Maybe we can get a video aspect of it and present it that folks could probably look on. I mean, it helps to bring back the thought of wanting to do it.
Yes.
You know, I think that's a problem with driving, the process of wanting to do it. We get so caught up in the everyday commute that we forget about wanting to do something.
Yes.
Wanting to drive defensively. From time to time, I will mention, don't forget to be a defensive driver when you're driving on. I say it from time to time.
Yes.
On the show. But sometimes, as you go along, it doesn't come to mind because I'm studying to, go where I'm leaving St. George's to go to Grenville. I'm leaving St. George's to go to St. Patrick. That's where my focus is really at.
Yes.
And if I feel I want to get there in 25 minutes.
Right.
I'm going to do whatever I got to do on the road to get there.
Right.
And careless and could care less about the impact I could cause.
Yes.
By not being a defensive driver in my regular commute moving along.
Yeah. So it has been widely expressed by a few persons that since we started this Monday program in terms of road safety and disaster risk awareness, etc., people have said to me, they've met me one-on-one and said, I feel more conscious and aware of certain things on the road because of you guys' program. And that is what we're trying to build. And we're looking for more persons on board and contributors and so on to be able to help us with, creating road signs and some of those cat eyes and so on, those reflectors around corners and particular hazards. So if anybody within the hearing of my voice or reach, you want to be able to donate or contribute towards some cat eyes and signage and so on, let me know. A gentleman met me on Sunday and he said, Mr. McIntyre, he asked for my number. He said, I want to be able to contribute towards the road safety program that you guys have. I want to be able to do that. And that is
I always like to put that target out for people also. Because we have a Monday where we have just little no accidents at all, if it's possible.
So
we say on Monday comes, could we have the police report to us that there's no accident, whether it's of a minor nature on that. There was nothing had occurred on this day.
And that is part of our Project 26, where for Road Safety Day, 6th of March, we want to be able to drive certain messages. And one of it would be a no accident or the least accident ever on that date or within that month, 6th of March. So that's one of the things we want to do. And before this aspect leave me, people may ask, they might be listening and following our program today, and they might be saying, if I want to do a defensive driving course, who do I need to talk to? Where do I need to go? And that's why I said there are business opportunities that people can get on. I know there are companies that are certifying people in defensive driving. Yeah. I do teach defensive driving. I think I lost my accreditation and be able to give people, make them it. But you can get the training to become. You don't have to become an expert in defensive driving. You need to get the information. You don't have to be a certified defensive driver, where you can get the information related to what to do about defensive driving. But an expansion and elevation of that, people can get courses where you can be considered a certified defensive driver.
All right. So we have just approximately about 6 or so minutes left on today's program. We'll give this opportunity to our listeners and viewers out there who want to chime in on the program.
Absolutely.
Of course, you may have something to respond to our conversation this morning, or add to our conversation this morning in terms of defensive driving. We do have a first caller via WhatsApp. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
One of the offenses that is not being dealt with on the road nowadays, and it's for a while now, is driving without reasonable consideration. Only yesterday, a truck carrying flammable liquid gas overtook another vehicle right on the light, and the light was on red. Overtook a vehicle right on the light and went. I mean, the vehicles coming from the other direction, from up from on the main road, had to blow their horns, and he don't take no heed of them. He just go. I have the number, and I intend to call the company about it.
Good. That's a good part.
Reasonable consideration for others using the road is a real problem on our roads.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Appreciate your call a whole lot. We do have another caller. Let's see which one we grab first. Let's take this one via the WhatsApp and we go to the direct line. WhatsApp caller, you're live. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to Richard and Mr. McIntyre. Good job as usual.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
I am one of the recipients of defensive driving at the time employed in Cable and Wireless, and I did that defensive driving with Mr. McIntyre. And so, I'm benefited of it, and there are certain aspects of it that still resonate with me. Mr. Mark, you didn't touch on it, I know, because of the time, but centrifugal force, the way you load your vehicle, the amount of load you put on it and how you load it has to do with also, how your vehicle stops and how it climbs the hill and stuff like that. So I'm just saying we need a defensive driving course. Yes, I am supporting. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, caller. Thank you a whole lot for that.
I know we're going to get some advocates for defensive driving courses.
Yes.
Definitely.
I mean, and it just shows that there are people who have a lot of interest in this.
Yeah.
And it is,
And this gentleman says he's been a recipient of the course.
Yeah, sure.
So, and he could be a facilitator or maybe somebody to provide some support.
So true. We have another caller. We lost that caller there. 435. We still could take another call or two if it comes really quickly. We may have to take a wrap, but this one is the score. We have a caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome.
Hi. Good morning. How are you?
Doing great. Let's hear from you.
I'm just trying to find out.
Caller, either they have a device that's a little bit beyond, a little loud in the background. Could you have it turned down for us, please, or turn off completely?
We have a situation where we have, especially bus drivers and taxi operators, that has that very, very bright headlamp. and they usually spot that headlamp in your eyes, and sometimes it reflects in your eyes from your rearview mirror, causes temporary blindness when you're driving. I'm trying to wonder what defensive driving can you get for those situations where drivers seem to literally blind you and you need to stop, or you may cause an accident because you are almost temporarily blinded by the bright headlamps of other drivers. Thanks so much.
Yes. Thank you, caller. Yes. Thank you. Great contribution there.
Yes, sir. I empathize with your cause. And to curb that, some of the modern day vehicles now, their rearview mirrors are designed with a decreaser of the luminance from another vehicle. When you look at if a vehicle spot, your mirrors would decrease that reflection.
Yeah.
Yes. But if you don't have that though, one of the things you can do, because you do not look in your rearview mirror so often at night, you can turn it down.
There's actually something on the mirror itself,
Yes, you can adjust it.
A lever.
A lever. Yeah. You can adjust it so that it doesn't strike directly into you.
But I think he's more making reference to an approaching vehicle.
Oncoming vehicle.
With that excessive brightness.
But you did speak about the rearview. Okay, so the oncoming, one of the things that one can do as a defensive driving means, you never look directly into an oncoming light. You always look to the left side of the road because we drive on the left. So rather than steering directly into an oncoming vehicle, you look to the left. So in other words, the light of this vehicle stays to the corner of your eye and not directly into your lens, into the pupils of your eye. So again, look to the left side of the road and ensure that you can focus on where the left is and not looking directly ahead. Once the vehicle passes, you can go back into looking straight ahead. But once an oncoming vehicle comes on, whether the light is bright or not, you always try to look to the left side of the road.
That may be so, but again, the issue here is not necessarily where you look, but the oncoming vehicle and the courtesy that they do not extend in dimming their lights.
Yes.
That is the problem.
In some countries, you could be ticketed for driving with, in some countries they call it highlights.
Yes.
In some countries, you could be ticketed for that.
Yes.
You just can't drive with that, with the highlights on, they would say.
Yes. But another defensive means of coping with that, sir, is, as you said, you slow almost to a stop or stop. And if the light has struck directly into your eye, you close your eye for a few seconds. Stop, close your eye for a few seconds, because you will have what is called, as you mentioned, temporary blindness. You shut your eyes for a few seconds, and then you open it, and your eye will begin to regain
and then
readjust
we have
itself.
to remember as well, one of the basic things in driving is, when in doubt, stop.
Yes.
All right.
But when stop, stay stop and shut your eye for a little bit.
We do have a final caller for the morning. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome again.
With the lights too, when you're driving your vehicle and that bright light is coming in front of you, you dim your light. Don't matter whether the light in front of you is bright. Dim your light, because when you dim your light shines more to the left, so you can see the left side of the road and keep closer to it. Avoid the oncoming vehicle.
It's also an indicator to the oncoming vehicle that his light is creating some obstruction in your view. So by dimming your light or flicking your own light.
But these days folks are modifying their lights a whole lot too.
Yes.
Which means even though they're on low lights, as we'd say, it's at that luminance level that
it's so bright.
Too bad.
Yes.
So sometimes there's not much that you could be done. Even though you dim yours, it may help you to a point. No, their lights become your light, as some folks would say.
Yes.
But it's still, So McIntyre, Mr. McPhail, we come to that part of the moment we have to take a wrap for today.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure as always. We can do this again next week while the Almighty permits. Anything in closing from both gentlemen?
I would just like to encourage every driver to think defensive.
Yeah.
Process your journey before you depart. Think of what you're likely to meet and prepare to maneuver and to come through them safely. And remember, when you drive, hold on to that aspect that people always say, you drive for you and drive for others as well. There's nothing wrong in that. That's defensive driving.
So true. You know, there's a final message from someone who's saying, I have noticed a new trend where there is a vehicle with flashing lights similar to which is used by emergency vehicles, the police, the ambulance. Yeah. And they're saying that they think this new trends need to be curbed. Flashing blue or red lights ought to be reserved for emergency vehicles only.
I agree.
But you see, people, these gadgets are now being imported, and you know, if it stopped from the importation level, then it will not be able to have access to it. You understand? So, folk would say, "Well, I'm getting it to buy, so I'm buying it." Is it right or not right?
So we provide the platform and the avenue for people to raise those issues, like people identify hazards across. And when we speak about them, our authority usually would put some action in motion.
Gentlemen, that's what we take a wrap for today. Thank you once again, and I hope to see you both next week, hopefully.
Okay.
All right. Hey, folks, that's what we're going to wrap today's edition of To The Point. Thanks all who, of course, tuned in. Have a good day, folks. That's where we say goodbye.